Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. I recently finished a live stream playthrough of Mask of the Betrayer, which is an expansion for the Neverwinter Nights 2 Enhanced Edition game. I really enjoyed it. So unique. There's very few games that give you an experience like Mask of the Betrayer, which is a post-game expansion, very high level, epic levels. Most D&D games don't allow you to play with those kind of mechanics. So in so many different ways, it felt like a wholly unique experience. And that made me think, what are some other games that I really wish let you play around with some post-game content way after you've reached what supposedly was the max level and you become, the biggest, baddest guy walking around. There are a few games that I feel like would really benefit from letting players do this. So in this video, I'm going to cover 6 games that I believe would strongly benefit from post-game expansion content. Now keep in mind, in order to be able to talk about this, I feel like I kind of need to be able to talk about spoilers for these games. So there are chapters down below. You can skip a particular chapter if it's for a game that you haven't played yet and don't want spoiled for you. Also, in case you're new to the channel, here at Slandered Gaming, we really focus on CRPGs. I've played most of these games, reviewed and did content for it. So if that kind of content interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and hit that bell to ensure you don't miss any future videos. All right, first on the list, let's start with the obvious one, the one people bring up all the time, Baldur's Gate 3. What an incredible CRPG. Definitely one of my favorites all time. I'm not quite as high on it as some other people because I believe it's only the good aligned run that's really great, whereas the evil aligned run forces the player to sacrifice way too much. But there are a ton of games that really don't even have one classic run. BG3 has one of the most amazing good aligned runs you can possibly have in a game. So if you haven't played it yet, can't recommend highly enough. Pick it up. One of the things that makes BG3 so great is the mechanics. And if you had a post-game expansion, you would be able to have more levels, which would also allow you to get more spells, more feats, and more access to this incredible system that Larian has designed. And I think just off the strength of that, having an expansion would be great. It would also allow Larian Studios or another developer to flesh out the city of Baldur's Gate. While the city is massive and has a ton of content, there's also a lot of things that Larian had to cut out for time and in order to just be able to streamline the process of completing the game. And there are many players who feel like the things that were cut negatively impacted the game, and in fact negatively impacted some of the party members' storylines, Carlock most especially. So if you had a post-game expansion, it will provide an opportunity to address some of those issues. And speaking of which, it would also allow them to flesh out the endings for party members significantly more. Now, this isn't quite as big an issue as it was at launch, but even with the updated endings, I still feel like some of these party members, it's not fleshed out enough what happens to them and how the events of BG3 impact their lives going forward. And so if you had a post-game expansion, it would be able to hammer home more what's actually happening with these characters and how things have changed for them. Wizards of the Coast has already announced that there is going to be a Baldur's Gate 4. And while I don't have high hopes regarding that game, because obviously it's not going to be made by Larian Studios, if it does turn out to be great, one of the things I'm really hoping we get out of it is another D&D game that is not afraid to go into those epic levels, to go balls to the wall the way the original Baldur's Gate 2 game did and Neverwinter Nights 2 did with Mask of the Betrayer. I really enjoyed that experience of being able to operate an epic level, and hopefully we'll get another taste of it in a more modern game. All right, moving on to the next game, Knights of the Old Republic. This game was really, really important in my life. It's basically the game that made me decide, okay, I don't care that consoles cost $250. I don't care that I have to put down $50 per game. I am a gamer for life because, wow, this experience is so incredible. The first title that really, truly made you feel like you were playing as a Jedi. And as amazing as the experience was, unfortunately, it had a very, very abrupt ending. The end game itself was pretty cool, pretty solid, but the ending of the game, personally, I felt like it was very unsatisfactory, and I would have loved to see more post-game content to flesh out some of your role as Revan. You could have faced other Lords of the Sith, more characters who were previously aligned with you and might either want to destroy you for turning back to the light, or might want to be able to prove their dominance over you and take control of the Forge. I feel like that would have been awesome. They could have also explored more of your complicated relationship with other Master Jedi, perhaps Jedi who had had their friends killed by you previously and consequently would have extremely mixed feelings about all of a sudden you being viewed as a hero. And perhaps most importantly, post-game expansion could have fleshed out why Revan left and what he was looking for that caused him to be completely unavailable. I'm definitely hoping if we ever end up getting that remake of KOTOR that they provide something in the game that helps explain that a little bit more, but would have been nice to have post-game expansion content in the original game that spoke to it as well. Just all the way around, KOTOR is a series that is really, really worthy of the remake treatment, and I would love to see them not only redo the first two games, but then also go ahead and do a true single-player third game to close out the series and answer all the questions. I know some of this was addressed in the MMO, but I found the content to be unsatisfactory, so I would really love to see this explored in the right way. Next up, another game that definitely needs the post-game expansion treatment is Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, my personal favorite CRPG of all time. This game can end with you being at level 20, which is just as big a deal in Pathfinder as it is in D&D. And it's also possible that you have ascended, which means it's a whole new ball game for your character, and your enemies and the people that you are interfacing with could potentially radically change. And so a post-game DLC would be really, really exciting. Now, of course, there's very few people who were able to achieve that ending, but I feel like Outcat could have done something like, hey, something happened where everybody ended up getting ascended in that way, but some it was just temporary, and others, if you actually got the ending, it was basically a permanent new normal for you. Regardless, I feel like a post-game expansion would have provided the opportunity for you to face off against new demon lords, potentially visit a completely different plane. I was really excited about the inevitable excess DLC that they had announced because I thought that's exactly what they would be doing, but it didn't really feel like it worked out that way. And just in general, Pathfinder feels like a universe where there are so many more places to go, so much more to do, and you're at this high mythic level with all these mechanics that are so much fun to use. A post-game expansion would really, really be beneficial and allow you to explore more of this content, but unfortunately, it never quite happened in the way the fandom could latch onto, and at this point, we'll probably never see it, but I definitely feel like the game would have benefited from it. Next up is another Larian game, Divinity Original Sin 2. So this is another great CRPG. The interesting thing about DOS 2 is that it really, really rewards creativity. It allows the player to experiment in the environment, experiment with different combinations of skills, experiment with different combinations of elements, and let you kind of trying to figure out what is the best way to solve the puzzle of all these different encounters that you run into. It's very, very unique and creates and makes for a very engaging experience. But unfortunately, one of the things that doesn't quite work well about DOS 2 is that it kind of gets worse over time. The high point in a lot of people's eyes is Act 1, and then Act 2 is very, very good, no question, but probably not quite as good. And then Act 3 is significantly worse than the first two acts. And while Act 4 is better, it doesn't really hit the highs that the first two acts had. And that was especially true at launch. The last act had horrible bugs and issues that really marred your experience when the game first launched. That has since been fixed, but it took a long time before they finally got to the point that they were able to fix and address it. And to be honest with you, while there is a nice twist in the end game, I don't feel like DOS 2 really has a particularly great ending. So just all the way around, it feels like this is a title that would benefit from some post-game content, providing the player with an opportunity to establish a much better ending for themselves. In addition, there's an NPC that assists you significantly during your adventure named Malady, and she lets you know early on that she entered into an agreement in order to receive some assistance, and now the person who was supposed to help her is actually dead. So theoretically, you should be able to step in and provide her with that help, and there are a lot of players who definitely wanted an opportunity to be able to do that, but the game never does. A post-game expansion would have provided the opportunity for us to be able to team up with Malady and deal with the demon who has been plaguing her. But again, we never got that experience. I'm definitely on the list of people who are hoping that Larian's next game is Divinity Original Sin 3 and that Malady is going to play a large part in it. Another game that I think would benefit from a post-game expansion is Metaphor ReFantazio. I had such an amazing experience with this game. I did one, maybe two live streams of it, and then I actually played the rest on my own. I've never played any of the Persona series that it appears at least really formed the foundation that Metaphor built on. And so this is my first experience with a game that has this type of system. I loved it. I thought it was absolutely incredible. The mechanics were so cool. The graphics are amazing. Those cutscenes, especially the ones where your main character gets new powers and new classes, so freaking awesome. I thought all of it made it feel like I was playing through an anime, and that is right up my alley. One of the things I enjoy the most about Metaphor is it gives you a fascinating portrayal of a racist society. You play as someone who people, when they look at you, they immediately make the determination that you're someone that they cannot trust, that you're up to no good, that you're evil. And a big part of the game is you trying to help people work through those attitudes, work through those perspectives, and try to make the world a better place. I really like that journey and enjoy the way it's portrayed, but I feel like the game stops right when the real hard work is going to begin. So you become the leader, the prince, the ruler of all the land, and now you're supposed to be the head who's going to be assisting and trying to bring about this world that you've been talking about. Like essentially everything you've been doing before is kind of all talk. It's just like, hey, we can be better. We can do better. You don't have to act like this. You don't have to conduct yourself like this, right? But then you're in control. And so the question becomes, what are the things that you should be doing? What are the choices that you have to make in order to bring about this better society that you've been telling everyone about? I feel like thematically that journey could be even more compelling than what we got in the original game, because on some level without it, it makes what Metaphor provides feel a little bit shallow. It doesn't quite go far enough, right? It doesn't give players the full perspective or experience. And so I would love a post-game expansion that explored more of these themes and what the game is supposed to be all about. And then the last game that I would love to see get a post-game expansion treatment is Tyranny. I am a big fan of Obsidian's Tyranny. I feel like it has one of the best magic systems I've ever seen in a game. The factions are incredible. The lore of the world, it is just all super cool. But unfortunately, Tyranny doesn't feel complete. It doesn't feel like a full game. It definitely feels like they needed to flesh more of that out. And one of the main issues with it is that you never meet the main villain. You hear about them all the time. Such an amazing job is done of building up this character, but you never actually meet them. And I'm sure Obsidian was hoping they would have the opportunity to do a Tyranny 2 where that relationship could be more properly explored. But unfortunately, it looks like we'll never get a sequel. Similar to KOTOR, Tyranny is another game that could really benefit from a remake, or someone at least tried to do something in this incredible world with all of that lore. But a post-game expansion that allows you to finally meet Kairos and get some of your questions answered regarding what they have done, what their plans are, and frankly, how you can at least attempt to stop them would be amazing. I would love to see that so much, and it would have been really nice to have that content. Who knows, maybe one day we'll actually see more of Tyranny. Anyway, that is my list of 6 games that I would love to see a post-game expansion for. Let me know down in the comments what are some games that you would like to see an expansion for, something that goes higher level, something that explores more of the themes that the game deals with. I would definitely love to hear your feedback. Once again, if you haven't already, subscribe down below, hit that bell, and if you care to, there are links down below if you would like to join as a member on YouTube or join my Patreon. I appreciate all of you all support, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.